Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Sirhan on X, live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful 16th of April, 2025. And it's warmer weather starting to break through, but we're still having frost advisories in the middle of April. How weird is that? Especially here in Cincinnati, where everybody knows Cincinnati weather is all over the place. One day you can get summer weather in the middle of March, and then the next day you're going to get winter weather or stormy weather like out of nowhere. So it's the most bipolar Mother Nature you're ever going to have, and it is what it is at this point. I hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day today. Let's get right down to it. Yeah, starts on a little bit of a sad note here in Cincinnati. It was a tragedy that the one-time standout for FC Cincinnati, Aaron Boupendza, was found dead in China at age 28. Reasons are unknown at this point. An individual who basically lit up TQL Stadium in Cincinnati every time FC Cincinnati was on the home field, had some electric moments, a unique personality. Granted, his tenure didn't end well, but maybe had the keystone moment in FC Cincinnati history when he had what turned out to being the game-winning goal in the 2023 game in Toronto to clinch the 2023 Supporters Shield for FC Cincinnati. I could point to a lot of other moments, but it's probably the one that stands out probably forever, etched in Cincinnati sports history. May he rest in peace, because it's just a tragedy all the way around. Now to what's going on in Miami. Now, reports are coming out that the Dolphins are looking to deal both Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill. And the asking price for Tyreek Hill apparently is 2 first-round draft picks. Maybe you shouldn't have forked out all that draft capital to Kansas City when you got him in the first place, because now here you are looking for 2 first-round draft picks. Because you guys remember back after the 2021 season, the Kansas City Chiefs tried to reach a deal with Hill and didn't work out. So they asked him to seek a trade, went to Miami for a boatload of draft picks, a couple first-rounders, a few second-rounders, among many others, which allowed the Chiefs to put together the dynasty that it is at the moment. But especially with what happened with Tyreek Hill and the supposed situation with a woman, per usual, I guess that's why they want to get rid of Tyreek Hill. Now he's got a contract that's sort of an albatross. But somebody that Miami front office needs to have their head examined for CTE, simply because I'm not sure you're going to get 2 first-round draft picks for him. You might be lucky to get a first. I'm not sure you're getting 2, because his value has been down, and his play over the past year and a half hasn't been what everyone's been accustomed to seeing out of Tyreek Hill. And the situation in Miami is a mess. We know this. Just not too long ago, they were talking about them in the upper echelon of the AFC with teams like Buffalo, Kansas, and Baltimore. But we know the story. They haven't been able to win games that matter over the past couple seasons, especially when you talk about teams with winning records, having been handled by the Buffalo Bills. I believe it's something like at least 5 straight or 6 straight or something like that. And those games haven't been particularly close either. And now they're talking about also moving the standout cornerback, Jalen Ramsey. But as I said, after he won the Super Bowl with the Rams in Super Bowl 56, play started to hit the downturn. Basically, he got his ring and he basically said, I'm done. Of course, was traded to Miami. Had the meniscus surgery last season. Came back late, but was a shell of himself. Maybe he can part on a team who needs cornerback depth, because he can still be a good depth piece for anybody who needs a secondary guy. But yeah, asking for him to cover number 1 guy like he used to do way back when he was in Jacksonville and LA, that's not going to happen. You can probably put him as a depth piece, maybe put him in a slot or as a cornerback 2 to cover the team's number 2 wide receiver. But having him as a number 1 corner, those days I think are pretty much over. Still a very, very solid cornerback. I think the right situation would be best for him. Whoever has the depth or needs an extra piece as a secondary guy, I think he could help. Some people are talking about him possibly going to safety at this point, which I think would help him out a lot, because that's what happens we talk about cornerbacks when they start to age like this. Perfect examples are guys like Rod Woodson and Deion Sanders way back in the day, and that's who I think he should be headed toward that way. By the way, shout out, what's up, Howard Gaddis? I see you out there. Hope you're doing good. So that is the situation in Miami. Looks like they're just going to blow this thing out and start from scratch. Problem is you're tied to contracts from players like Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle. So you're about to become a thing I hate to see with teams is treadmill teams. Teams that aren't good enough to do something significant like championship games or win it all, or bad enough to where they can just tank and rebuild from scratch. So Miami's at an impasse right now. And, they barely missed the playoffs last season. But I think a bigger picture has been sought over here with how the roster is constructed. The team needs massive work, and we're going to see what direction this goes. But Tyreek Hill, you're not getting 2 first-round draft picks for him. Maybe 1, but that might be a push. Don't know what the price tag would be for Jalen Ramsey. But I think whoever gets him can add him as a depth piece. If you're going to add him as your number 1 or corner, or maybe a number 2 corner, you're going to be disappointing yourself. As a depth piece, or maybe as a slot corner or a safety, I think he'd be a good fit at this stage of his career. Still a solid player in the secondary for any team that needs secondary depth, but not the number 1 guy he was when he was a pretty darn good one in his years in Jacksonville and especially in LA. And speaking of the NFL, of course, coming up soon is the NFL draft, a week from tomorrow. But it was 25 years ago today that the New England Patriots had a compensatory 6th-round pick, number 199 overall. And they drafted this fella. I'm sure everybody's heard of him quite a few times over the past 2.5 decades. He goes by the name of Tom Brady. The standout from Michigan. You know the story of his career. They just picked him out of nowhere. So just use a compensatory pick for him. Wasn't going to amount to anything. Then, of course, the second game where Drew Bledsoe, the original starter for the New England Patriots in 2001, has a collapsed lung, is out for the season. Of course, Tom Brady takes over, and the rest is history. All the numbers, all the stats, the career accolades. I mean, it's second to none, whatever you talk about it. When you consider just how great Tom Brady is, you just can't come up with any superlatives or anything to describe him. I mean, of course, there was the whole shebang in 2007 and 2014 with Spygate. But I think that's more a reflection on the Patriots franchise than it is on the Tom Brady in his career. Doesn't impact it either way. But the story from what happened on to 2020 when his tenure in New England was over. 6 Super Bowls and 9 Super Bowl appearances, many AFC title games, many big games. Clutch moments, good. Some cases, not so good. But that comes with the territory when you play as long as Tom Brady has and amass the greatness that he has. That's what you're going to put with it. I mean, who even tell you he wasn't even perfect in many cases? He was always a guy that always worked on his craft and found ways to be better, even though he had the stature of the greatest quarterback of all time by most of the NFL pundits. But still an all-time great. Of course, the 2 years in Tampa where he led Tampa to the Super Bowl in 21. Of course, fell off the map finally at age 45 in 2022 until he finally called it a career. But just a terrific run. And it was the New England Patriots who made the particular choice with a compensatory 6th-round pick 25 years ago today, pick number 199. They selected a quarterback from Michigan named Tom Brady, widely regarded as the GOAT. I mean, again, all subject to opinion. But the career and accolades speak for itself. Maybe in some cases you can wonder he was a bit underrated because, people had more MVPs and more career accolades than he did. I view Tom Brady as a guy who always had a chip on his shoulder because of his draft stature, and he was basically just a pick that wasn't supposed to amount to much. We know what happened. And Tom Brady always said it uses a bargaining chip on his shoulder. And, of course, now he's an analyst for Fox NFL Sunday in the Game of the Week with Kevin Bernhardt. I think he does a better job than people think. He just has a different view because you got to remember, this guy was an NFL quarterback and he sees the field differently what the casual fan sees. And basically, because he was an NFL player and he has a different view of the game, and he's not big on the stat sheets or the screenshots like every moron in the NFL community is. He has a different view, and that's why it turns off some of the fan base, because he like myself, thinks that stats and screenshots don't tell the story when it comes to quarterback playing the NFL. I mean, he can be the first to tell you because he played it. He knows the importance of understanding the chemistry between the quarterback and the receivers, the running back, the importance of getting the right signals to the offensive linemen so they have their blocking scheme set. And he knows that stuff better than any casual fan in the NFL. And basically, you can take about 5 million of the casual NFL fans put together, and they still can't hold a jockstrap to Tom Brady when it comes to football analysis. And that's what kills a lot of these content creators or these media people or these fans in the NFL per se. I mean, agree or disagree with it, that's fine. But he's better than what people think. He's going to get better. Remember, he said, going into this season when he was working as an analyst with Fox with Kevin Bernhardt, he's basically a rookie all over again. I expect him to come back the next season much better. And of course, the situation where he's a part owner of the LA Raiders, actually Las Vegas Raiders. I keep thinking of them as the LA and Oakland Raiders. That's what they were during my time. But the legacy of Tom Brady is second to none. Anything he does, he's going to work at it and find a way to perfect it. That's what made Tom Brady special as an NFL player. I expect him to do the same as an analyst and in his role with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now to some NBA. Special 78th birthday shout out to the one and only Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, known as Ferdinand Lou Alcindor Jr. We know about the NBA accolades: the 6-time champion, the multiple MVPs. At one point, the all-time leading scorer was 38,389 points, primarily with that sky hook to where it was basically untouchable because of his long arms and his long frame for a guy 7'3". But what was not talked about enough is what he did in college over at UCLA. You talk about the premier dynasty with the standout late John Wooden. I mean, his career in college says it all. 3-time All-American, 3-time National Player of the Year, 3-time Most Outstanding Player of the Year in the NCAA tournament, and of course, the 3 times UCLA won in 67, 68, and 69, and he was a kingpin of them all before Bill Walton came back by after Kareem graduated and ascended to the NBA. Won, of course, a championship in Milwaukee with the great Oscar Robertson with the Bucks before he was shipped to LA. And you know the story there with him and Magic Johnson putting together the Showtime Lakers to win 5 titles in the 80s. Maybe the biggest one was 1985 after the meltdown in the 84 finals against Boston, where they were riding Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar off, respectively calling them Tragic Magic and Kareem Puff. They come back in 85 and one of the all-time revenge tours, stomped the league, beat the Celtics to win the 85 championship in 6 games in a historic run in the midst of that glamour run where the 80s Showtime Lakers was the premier franchise in all of sports. Everyone wanted to be the Lakers. Everyone wanted to go to the courtside at the Great Western Forum. Doesn't matter who you are. You can be a high-fame celebrity. You can be a homeless bum. You can be somewhere in the middle. You can be someone like me who's a no good for nothing. And still want to go to LA and watch the Lakers play on the Great Western Forum home court. And even travel to a lot of opposite venues, like, of course, Boston Garden, where the Lakers and Celtics were dueling that great 80s rivalry. Of course, Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks went there. The 80s Showtime Lakers was just unique. Everyone wanted to be like the Lakers, and everyone loved it because of the style and flamboyance that team possessed. And that was a complete team. People would talk about just Magic and Kareem. I mean, you had guys like Michael Cooper, who was a versatile two-way player for them. Of course, later on, the standout James Worthy when they drafted him out of North Carolina. Byron Scott and the Iron Man for the longest time, AC Green. Michael Thompson was on there. You know him, his son, Klay Thompson, the one-time Golden State Warrior. And that Lakers team in the 80s was basically head and shoulders the NBA franchise of the 80s, and is not even close. The only one closest probably is, of course, the Bird Celtics, but they won 3 titles versus Magic and Kareem's 5. And the legacy of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a second to none. You talk about the all-time centers, at a time when centers was the premier position in basketball. You could probably argue Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is number one. Some would say Wilt Chamberlain, who was an offensive buzzsaw. No argument from me. Some people would say Bill Russell, the defensive specialist. No argument from me. You throw in Hakeem Olajuwon in his skills. Hakeem Olajuwon, a legitimate case for being ahead of his time. I get it. But when you think of the body of work from the collegiate career as it carried over to the NBA career, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will forever be the gold standard. He did it at all levels, and it was basically the impact was second to none. You can talk about all the scoring records and the career accolades you want, but when you have a 7'3" guy like him just standing on the court, everything changes. That's the impact of the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Happy 78th birthday, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Hope you're doing well where you're at. Your legacy is second to none, and I don't see anybody. You can dice it up any way you want. You can nitpick all you want with the stats and the screenshots. It doesn't matter. No one's going to come remotely close to what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did during his career, starting in college back in '66, all the way to when he retired from the NBA in 1989. Just a terrific, terrific career. Now to some more NBA and a couple of individuals who decided to make fools of themselves today. Let's start with this. We're going to Dallas, and once again, Nico Harrison wants to make a fool out of himself. He was approached by Dallas ESPN writer Tim McMahon, who basically just doubled down on him about the Luka Doncic trade. You know the story. Luka Doncic traded to LA in one of the most off-the-chain situations in sports history. And Nico Harrison still doubling down on his stance, the ideology of defense winning championships. And basically, he's getting shredded by Tim McMahon on a podcast in Dallas earlier today. And it comes out that because it happened, Dirk Nowitzki, who's been the face of the Dallas franchise, wants nothing to do with it. And it also comes out that Nico Harrison wants Mark Cuban to totally sell everything and just be done with the Dallas Mavericks. You guys know Cuban was a part of the basketball operations. He sold that and let Nico Harrison took over. Now Harrison wants Cuban totally gone from the situation. And Nico Harrison just looks like a real idiot each passing time when someone brings the trade up. He continues to say, defense wins championships. He continues to say it. Problem is, you're trading a generational talent. And what you're stuck with now? I mean, you brought in Anthony Davis, who is known for a terrific player when he's healthy, but that's the issue. He can't stay healthy. You had a Kyrie Irving who just blew his knee out, and you have the corpse of Klay Thompson, which, is not much left. And now they somehow snuck into the play-in, largely because of the play of Luka Doncic early in the season when Dallas was still in the middle of the Western Conference playoff race. They're going to Sacramento tonight. But per usual, when you make a trade like this and you're resigning to defending your stance, even though you're saying you have no regrets, you're pretty much saying you have regrets. I mean, Nico Harrison is going to become the biggest loser of all of this. And if once someone fires him from his job or he resigns from it, which it's going to happen sooner rather than later, the results are going to speak for themselves. I'd be surprised unless the Lakers want him. I'd be surprised if he lands another NBA job of some sorts, because it was just one of the most wild things and one of the most despicable acts. Not the fact that he did this, the trade of Luka Doncic, the way he carried himself in the press conference afterward, and the way he carried himself to interviewing Tim McMahon of ESPN. It's just egg all over his face. He's trying everything he can to dissolve himself from any accountability from it. He was the one that made the trade. He made that bed. At this point, he needs to just flat out shut up and go lie in it, because that's what he put himself in the situation. He can lie about defense wins championships all he wants. That something, a 3-year-old can say in an interview like that. But that's what Nico Harrison has resorted to, and that's why he's one of the bigger disgraces in the NBA and has become a flat-out laughingstock. I mean, we get it. Luka Doncic can be a defensive liability. That's a no-brainer. I mean, even those in LA will tell you that. But if trading a generational talent like that And not only that, you're shortchanging yourself on the return of an investment because Dallas has no first-round draft picks for the rest of the decade. And you're going to try to retool and rebuild without a first-round draft pick. Good luck in the NBA, because we're at a point where if you're going to do something like this, you might as well get some kind of a net positive, because you've had a net negative and it's gone sinking and sinking and sinking ever since. And good luck the rest of the decade, because the Lakers had to deal with that for the longest time when they keep up all their draft picks for Anthony Davis, even though they won their championship in 2020. The Heat had to do the same thing for the longest time, and then it caught up to them after the big three of LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, ended when LeBron left and go return to Cleveland, and Chris Bosh had the health problems. So good luck down the line, Dallas. You're going to need it, especially you, Nico Harrison, because your 5 minutes of fame are about to be up. Never thought I'd live the day to talk about a general manager looking like an idiot, but that's what Nico Harrison did to himself. Don't blame me, blame Nico Harrison. And another one that's made a fool of himself today. It is the member of Klutch Sports, Rich Paul. You guys know the foundation with him and Maverick Carter, part of the LeBron posse. He comes out today and says that there was no big three in Miami during the LeBron, Wade, and Chris Bosh era. You guys know the story there. Miami gets Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. LeBron, of course, with the decision, joins Miami. And now Rich Paul comes out and says there was no big three. During his time in Miami, the Miami Heat were a plus 10 per 100 possessions when Chris Bosh was on the floor, and only a plus 1 when Chris Bosh was off the floor. And you mean to tell me there's no big three? The guy was an all-star every year in Toronto, and several years before that, he was a 2010 guy instantly. And basically, he moved from Toronto to Miami simply because Toronto wasn't interested in building a winning foundation around him. So he wanted to go to a winner, which he went to Miami. I mean, I get it. But how are you going to say this guy's not a big three guy when he basically was a 2010 guy and basically still put up the 2010 numbers on occasionally when with LeBron and Wade to form awfully the lethal triple duo in NBA history in terms of the ability to run an offense. I mean, Chris Bosh had some more clutch moments in that run that people think. Think about the game winner in Game 3 of the NBA Finals against Dallas. Granted, Dallas came back to win the rest of the series. If it wasn't for his game-winning 3 in Game 2 against San Antonio in the 2014 Finals, that's a sweep. That basically saved the Heat from getting further embarrassed when they were already embarrassed enough in that 2014 Finals. I mean, who's going to be the big man on that roster if Chris Bosh wasn't there? I mean, who did they have at the time? Joel Anthony? I mean, well, he was good. He was good for a garbage layup with time expiring when the game was already out of hand. You had a Dexter Pittman, who was known for a chicken wing to Lance Stevenson in garbage time because Eric Spoelstra loves taking cheap shots in garbage times. But once again, this has to do with the fact this particular agency wants to prop up their client, which is LeBron James, to some GOAT status, but doing it while diminishing the value of what he had on that Miami team by diminishing the value of Chris Bosh when he was there. That's what it's all about. Anybody knows it. And Rich Paul just looked like an idiot because anyone with a brain knows even his time in Miami, Chris Bosh was still a top 5, top 10 big man. I mean, he was right there with a lot of them. I mean, you still had Duncan, you had Garnett, and you had a Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, he was still in that conversation among the guys in that at that time. You had Blake Griffin among many others. I can throw a whole list of them out there, but he was certainly a top 10 big man who could still put up 20-10 anytime he wanted. Yes, he had to suffice his role to help LeBron and Wade succeed. It's understood. That's part of what the culture was in Miami. But the reason why you diminish Rich Paul diminished Chris Bosh in that interview today to prop up LeBron James, it's an act of cowardice that was displayed by Rich Paul and Klutch Sports. And too bad they don't have any shame because that's what they are. That's all it's about, trying to put LeBron James in the status while they diminish other players and other all-time greats, which they don't have to do because LeBron's play during his career spoke for greatness itself. But That's what Rich Paul wants to do and wants to make a fool of himself and makes a clown of himself. That's what he is. Maybe he should have the Carter and Paul, but forget the Barnum and Bailey circus once upon a time. He should have a Maverick Carter and Rich Paul circus, because that's what they've become. When they put LeBron on pedestals he has no business being on, and they're doing it by diminishing other players in the NBA who played during his time. And that is something that makes him look foolish at the end of the day. I mean, Chris Bosh's time in Miami is not even talked about enough. Everybody talks about LeBron and Wade, understandably so. But Bosh had a very solid run. It was unfortunate after the 2014 season, the health problems he had with the blood clots in his calf that forced him to retire. But I wonder what he's thinking sitting at home listening to this. Good, hope Chris Bosh is doing well. Now to the world of boxing. It was announced today that negotiations are taking place for the undisputed heavyweight championship between the real champion Oleksandr Usyk and the fake heavyweight champion Daniel Dubois. You know, Usyk dropped the belt because Dubois wasn't mandatory. Dubois was crying like a little baby. Usyk basically said, "Here's your fake heavyweight championship. Have at it." Now he wants it back after the first fight where the low blow controversy that wasn't. And now we're going to have a rematch apparently some point in the summer. Dubois apparently has a fight coming up with Derek Chisora. Should he get by that, which I think he should. And we're going to have that rematch. And basically Dubois' 5 minutes of fame as the fake heavyweight champion will be over. Because I'm expecting Oleksandr Usyk this time to end this thing without controversy and basically be more one-sided than people think. I'll acknowledge Dubois has become a better fighter in recent fights, especially how he demolished Anthony Joshua. But that's who Daniel Dubois is at the end of the day. And I expect Oleksandr Usyk to become the undisputed heavyweight champion and basically rid the sport of the fake heavyweight champion that is Daniel Dubois. And I don't know how it will end, but I think he can end it any way he wants to. If he wants to take him the distance to give him a boxing lesson, have at it. If he wants to put him down and out for the count, have at it. But Daniel Dubois' 5 minutes of fame as the fake heavyweight champion is over. Go get him, Oleksandr Usyk. And now we're still going to have more fallout ongoing a week later from the fiasco that took place with one of these corrupt governing bodies. It is, if you remember, it was Dmitry Bivol vacating the championship. So David Benavidez can have the fake light heavyweight championship. We know why all that happened. Let's start with this. We know why that happened because that governing body once said they will never approve of Dmitry Bivol being their champion because of his Russian background. You guys know the Russia scenario with the political aspect. I won't talk about it on my platforms. But they blunt said they won't approve Dmitry Bivol of their champion or wouldn't approve of a Dmitry Bivol Artur Beterbiev undisputed light heavyweight championship fight for the longest time because Bivol is Russian. And that's why Dmitry Bivol basically went Riddick Bowe and told Mauricio Suleiman, the president of that governing body, here's your belt, throw in the garbage can, just send him the garbage can because that's what it is. And we know why David Benavidez was happy to get this belt because he did not want to fight Dmitry Bivol in the ring. He did not want to fight Artur Beterbiev in the ring. He didn't want to fight Canelo Alvarez in the ring to get it. He wanted it emailed to him the same way Jaron Ennis had a belt emailed to him not too long ago. And now they're trying to fabricate stories to where there was a sparring session between Benavidez and Bivol. This coming from Jose Benavidez Sr., basically saying they had a sparring session with some idiot named Marcos Villegas, Fight Hub TV, who's a degrading coward and a David Benavidez kiss butt himself. But they come out here now fabricating stories to try and diminish Dmitry Bivol worse than what already is. You can't even do that because Dmitry Bivol took the high road and basically said after all of the garbage that Mauricio Suleiman said, after the garbage Marcos Villegas said, and Jose Benavidez Sr. said, basically said, you can have the belt. I'm chasing what matters to me, and that's a third fight with Beterbiev, which is set for some point in October. I guess they're in the middle of negotiation. It's amazing to me how everyone acts like being a gift wrap a fake championship is a big deal. I mean, you're talking about a fake light heavyweight championship right now. We know who the real champion is. It's Dmitry Bivol. We know who the real number one contender is. That's Artur Beterbiev. They're going to fight in October. Now we have a fake light heavyweight champion in David Benavidez, and that's how he wanted to win the championship, by having it handed to him without having to go fight for it. Anybody with a brain knows this because he didn't want to fight Canelo Alvarez. He didn't want to fight Artur Beterbiev. He didn't want to fight Dmitry Bivol. He just wanted to hand it to him so he can say he has his own legacy, which I don't know what kind of a legacy he has at the moment, simply because that's what he is. But for Jose Benavidez Sr. and Marcos Villegas, who are just the biggest cowards in the Fight Hub and the boxing communities, you guys made yourselves look like cowards again. Because anybody with a brain knows that did not happen. Because if that were to happen, I don't think David Benavidez even steps foot in the boxing ring, because Bivol would probably embarrass him. I mean, you could probably wrap Dmitry Bivol's one arm behind his back, and he would still find a way to embarrass David Benavidez, because that's how pathetic of a fighter David Benavidez is, despite his fake undefeated record and having a fake light heavyweight championship. And now he can now call himself a champion because the governing body wanted him to have a belt. It was the second time he was being emailed a championship, happened many years back at super middleweight, but he lost it because he couldn't keep his weight in check, and he wasn't man enough to lay off the cocaine. But that's who David Benavidez is. That's who his fans are. The 50 David Benavidez fans with 700 burner accounts apiece. And that's who these two cowards, Jose Benavidez Sr. and Marcos Villegas of Fight Hub TV, are. The two biggest David Benavidez butt kissers. And now, congratulations. And you guys trying to rip William Skull for winning a championship he didn't deserve. Biggest difference, William Skull went into the ring and won the championship. David Benavidez never won a championship in the ring. I mean, you can debate whether William Skull should have gotten the decision, because I didn't think he deserved it. Difference was, at least he fought for it in the ring and did it the right way. David Benavidez didn't. That's the difference. And of course, when he fights Canelo Alvarez, that's going to take care of itself. Now we're going to see what David Benavidez does with his fake championship. They'll talk about him fighting Callum Smith. It still doesn't matter. It's still the fake light heavyweight championship, but he wanted it via email. He didn't want to have to earn it in the ring because he knows he can't hang with Canelo Alvarez or Artur Beterbiev or Dmitry Bivol. He's just not man enough to get in the ring to fight a champion the right way. And that's why he's celebrating being the email champion with a fake belt. Good luck, because your 5 minutes of fame are up. You can have your legacy, but it's not going to amount to much. In a historical moment today, this took place 73 years ago today at Chicago Stadium. Talk about earning things in the ring. It was none other than Sugar Ray Robinson defending his championship against the standout Rocky Graziano, known for a terrific 3-fight series with Tony Zale. Rocky Graziano, born as Thomas Rocco Barbella, basically was a fighter who held the middleweight championship from 47 to 48 before losing it to Zale. Got a couple fights and wound up with this title shot against the great Ray Robinson. Gave a good account of himself in this particular fight, but the natural instincts of Sugar Ray Robinson are just second to none, and it showed here when that perfectly timed and placed right cross right on Graziano's chin, put him down and out for the count. I mean, it was not about how hard a punch was. It was essentially about how where the punch was and how it was thrown. It was thrown at the right time, at the right spot, and had the right effect. Sugar Ray Robinson was just poetry in motion, and everything he did was so organic and so natural. It was just a thing of beauty if you can pull up his footage. I mean, the way he throws his jab, the way he controls the ring, there's nothing fabricated about him. It was just natural gifts. I mean, of course, everybody knows about the perfectly placed left hook, especially way back when he pasted the fighter with the so-called left hook of perfection, because that's what he was working on. The fighter regarded as the greatest pound for pound of all time, and showed why it was in another case of it. I could point to many other examples. But the elegance, the beauty of the style, and how Sugar Ray Robinson did things in the ring was just organically natural, to where when you saw it, you wanted to see more of it. I mean, the footage is out there. You're more than welcome to see it. I keep hearing about some of the guys today. I could put up about 50 fighters put together. They can't hold a candlelight to the greatness of Sugar Ray Robinson. And in this fight, he showed it, because Ray Robinson had his moments where he was going to try and get a little rough with Graziano. Graziano came back. But when it came time to finish the job and get the job done to defend his championship, that's what he did. I mean, after turning Graziano to the ropes. The perfectly placed 1-2 right on the chin of Graziano. Always a tough fighter for anybody. And Graziano was down and out for the count. That's the greatness and the beauty of what Sugar Ray Robinson was. 73 years ago today, he showed another example of it when he stopped Rocky Graziano in a really a stellar fight, because Graziano fought as well as he possibly could. It's just the greatness of Sugar Ray Robinson was just levels above Graziano's best. No matter how hard he tried, he was never going to match up with him, and it showed. I mean, Rocky Graziano is a stand-up fighter himself. I mean, talk about that trilogy he had with Tony Zale, where it was basically give and take for both guys. I think 2 of the 3 fights were Ring Magazine's Fight of the Year. I want to say it was 47 and 48. And even after his career, had time as an actor and carved out a heck of a career and a nice life himself. A standout fighter, but like many during that time, couldn't lace the boots of Sugar Ray Robinson. And when he stepped into the ring, the difference in class showed itself. That's why what happened 73 years ago today happened. I mean, this footage is out there. That's how great Sugar Ray Robinson was. I mean, he didn't have to do much. It was just all about perfecting the craft. It was all about the timing. When, where, and how. That's how Sugar Ray Robinson was successful. This was a perfect example of this when he floored Rocky Graziano. I can go on other stories about Sugar Ray Robinson, but, I could have a whole 1 hour about him if I really wanted to go, because we talk about him, that there's not enough superlatives or adjectives or verbs or nouns to describe him, because, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to watch the footage and see for yourself just how terrifically great he was. The people that lived it through then will probably, if some of them are still around, will probably tell you just how perfectly great he was. I mean, even Jim Lampley, who was on a show not too long ago, said he attended his first fight was Sugar Ray Robinson versus Bobo Olsen, and even then he saw just how naturally gifted Ray Robinson was. Maybe not just the pound for pound of all time for all the reasons, maybe the most gifted in the ring when it comes to skill, ring generalship, the ability to control the pace the way he wanted. That's Sugar Ray Robinson. Just a terrific career. And that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. I hope everyone has themselves a wonderful rest of the 16th of April, 2025. If you missed any of the show, you can catch me on Apple, iHeart, and Spotify, all free platforms. No charge necessary, because I did not allow for it. So if you want to listen to them free on those platforms, have at it. I will be back Monday. I am out for the weekend. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful day, wonderful rest of the week, wonderful weekend. And as always, make self-care your number one priority in life. Take care of yourself first before you take care of anything else in life. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, nothing else matters. You take care of yourself first, good things will follow. Have a good night. Have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves, and God bless.